Hey, everybody. Hey, Roxanne. Good to see you. It's really great to be here with you today. I am just going to double check to make sure my feed is coming through. Yes, all right, there we go. It is, again, just another spectacular day here on the East Coast. We are totally in a string of beautiful days. And the crazy thing is it's 80 degrees here today. I actually walked out of my office building and I was warm, which is the first time that's happened in like 7 months or something, which is really great. So that's a total mood uplifter. Hey, Peter, everybody's watching. Weigh in, say hi, where you're from. I'd love to hear and see who is in the audience. It always is very helpful to me because I don't see any, in Ecamm Live, you don't see any feedback other than the chat. So chat away. Prashant, it's great to see you. Lolly Boys, gaming, cool. I'm excited to share with you today because the subject matter of today is near and dear to my heart, which is the stuff they don't teach you in school and all the stuff you are not prepared for when you get out of school. And you don't have to have just gotten out of school over the last few months or last couple of years. You can be out of school for 5, 10 years and still be kind of coming to the realization that there's stuff that you did not get taught in school and that you really need to know in order to run a freelance business, run your career, even if you work for an agency or in-house. There's stuff you need to know that is completely outside of the curriculum of any kind of design school, fine art school, in many cases, liberal arts schools. And so that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. I wanted to share with you 7 things that I see as being things that they don't teach you in school that you really need to know. And it's 7 major topics, but there's a whole lot of things within those 7 themes. And so it's going to be, I gotta say, it's not a total rant, like I'm not really angry, but I am kind of angry. I'm angry that they have not adjusted or improved the formal education system in this country to address, for the most part, the stuff you really need to survive in today's economy as a creative professional. And it's really frustrating to me. I was invited, I was talking to SCAD, who is the South Carolina Art and Design School, very kind of prestigious design school, who were thinking about bringing me onto their faculty. And I did not want to relocate. And to be honest, the salary wasn't what I'm making even close. And so I passed on it. But when I was talking to them, and this was just a couple of years ago, I really dug into like what's in their curriculum today, because I wanted to hear back if some of the stuff that I was thinking was missing was still missing. And I have to say, for the most part, some of the stuff that they have now introduced into the curriculum is starting to address some of the stuff that I'm talking about, but 1 or 2 things, but it doesn't really get into the kind of depth that is necessary in order to run a business today or to survive out there. And so I wanted to share some of that with you today. Laura, great to see you. James, Tiago, the guy who's growing. Good. All right, the guy who's growing. Good to have a guy who's growing here. I'm glad. I hope everyone here is growing. And so the stuff I'm going to share with you today is stuff that you need to learn. And in my opinion, you should have learned. They should have addressed it in some way, shape, or form in design school. And I know that we also, probably everyone in the audience, has bones to pick with the education systems in general, that they don't teach you stuff you need to live, right, to adult, as they say. And that can be very frustrating. But I think that there are very specific things about being a creative professional that are needed to survive. Now, this is stuff you need to learn, and you need to, it's incumbent upon you to drive your own continuing education forward. And there's a number of ways that you can do that. You can do that through education platforms like Skillshare and LinkedIn Learning. You can do it through joining a mastermind group like the Brand Design Masters Guild that I run. You can do it through developing a relationship and finding a mentor, one-on-one mentor, or do some individual coaching, which I also offer, in order to improve and grow in these areas that our education system has failed you and failed us. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. One of the things I want to ask of you, if you like this content or if you're interested in this subject, I want you to share my channel with somebody. If you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button right now and put the notifications bell on so you can get alerted and get an email when I go live, which I'm doing very frequently now. And I would love it if you would share, just grab the URL or grab the URL of my channel and share it with somebody. Just send a friend or two an email and say, I discovered this great guy on YouTube and I'm learning a lot from him. You might want to check him out. I really am trying to grow my channel and my influence and my audience. And so you guys here can help me do that. And so I'm asking. You don't get unless you ask, right? So I'm asking you guys to share. If you feel like you're getting value from me, if you could please share my channel with your email list. If you have an email list, that would be really great. So Pakistan in the house, Nana, Timotej. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. It's great you guys are joining. I appreciate that. All right, so what do you say? Is everyone ready? You want to get into some content, into the meat? All right, let me turn my slides on. Oh, one other thing. If you guys haven't joined, I have a private Facebook group. It's called Brand Design Masters. If you go to facebook.com/groups/Brand Design Masters, you have to fill out a questionnaire and you have to cough up your email address. It's a requirement, but you will get into the group. It's a great community, about 3,000 creative professionals who are sharing their work, getting feedback, sharing resources and tools. It's a really cool community if you want to grow your network and grow your level of meaningful relationships and your knowledge. If there's anything in what I'm sharing here today that you feel like you're coming up short on, get into the Brand Design Masters Facebook group and start asking some questions. There's a ton of really great people in there. And there's also some really senior people in there. So if you want to get some seasoned advice from people who've been in the industry for a while, check that out. All right. Okay. Thank you, Tala. I appreciate the support. I really do. All right. So here we go. 7 things they don't teach you in design school. A bit of a rant. Okay. I went to fine art school. You guys might not know this, but I actually have my master's degree in painting. And I started off my career as an educator, both as an intern and as a teacher at university level, teaching painting and drawing, in some cases, photography. And then I started putting my work on t-shirts and selling my shirts in New York City. And then I stumbled into the fashion industry. I learned about computers. I learned that I was a great teacher, and I took that into creative direction, and then had 15 years in the fashion industry, then moved into the agency world and then the client side and back and forth. So that's kind of my history. I went to art school. I knew most of my friends were in the design departments. And I've also been on the advisory board of a number of art schools in San Francisco as a portfolio review person to graduating seniors. Also with the AIGA, I've reviewed thousands of portfolios in portfolio review kind of events with the AIGA, the American Institute of Graphic Arts. So I have seen and know a lot about the design school industry. And some of my really great friends have been heads of design in universities as well. So I know what they teach. And I know they're also, in many cases, they're as frustrated as I am with what is taught in design school. And so the first thing that they don't teach you, which is important to know, is time management. If anybody's been watching me for a while, you know that I surveyed my email list a while back and asked them what was the one thing that they were struggling with the most. And the number one answer I thought was going to be finding more clients. I thought it was going to be improving my design skills. It was not. It was time management. Time management and organization was the number one problem of 350 people who responded to my question about what was they were struggling with the most. They do not go into that, how you manage your time, both your work time and your personal work-life balance. They do not go into that. And there's a number of tools that you can use, tools like Calendly, which is a great application for having people being able to schedule time with you. You can also set it up so they have to pay, to schedule time with you, so you can monetize that. There's apps like Basecamp and Toggle. Toggle is a time tracking program that I also use in my agency, which is free. I don't know how they make money. I mean, there are advanced levels of it, but for a whole lot of functionality, it's free. There's Google Calendar, there's Asana, Trello, all those time management and project management apps. And so there are a ton of apps out there that can help you with time management. And I am a firm believer in the idea that if it doesn't get scheduled, it doesn't get done. So if you put it on your schedule and try to keep to that schedule every day, you are going to have a much more productive day. And you know that you are accountable to your schedule, so you will organize your time around hitting those time slots. Even when I have days where I have 0 client meetings, which are pretty rare, but the days where I have no client meetings and I'm really just working on my own stuff, either courses or content, I schedule out my day. I schedule out my lunch. I schedule out my coffee breaks. I schedule out how long I spend on individual things. Now, I don't always stick to it, right? I might run over, or I might get distracted by an email or some fire I have to put out, but it gives me an idea and a North Star that I can shoot for. And so working on your time management in terms of organizing your day is one of those skills you really have to sharpen. And I'm also a firm believer in the do the one thing first. And that's kind of a philosophy that's grown out of Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week, where he suggests 3 things, but choose that one thing that if you got a little bit farther on that one thing that day, that the day wouldn't have been a total waste. So it's so easy and so often that we come to the end of our day and we feel like we didn't get anything done, and we're really frustrated, and we're ping-ponging back and forth, attention deficit to a million things, and we never made any progress. Pick the one thing that if you move the ball forward a little bit that day, do that one thing first. Before you open your email, before you open a browser window, unless it's necessary for that thing, do that one thing first. Put in a good hour and a half on that thing before you do anything else. That way, if the day gets away from you or some fire comes along, you will have gotten something done that makes you feel good. So I recently shared that with a coaching client of mine, and she says it's been absolutely transformative. It's such a simple idea, but her days were getting away from her on a regular basis, and I shared the one important thing with her, and she's been doing it religiously, and she says that she is having much, much better time and easier time with her self-esteem around what she's getting done and with her calendar in general. Hey, Jorge. Welcome. Good to see you. From Ecuador. Awesome. Yes, gotta hydrate. Number two is financial stuff. And financial stuff has a lot of arms, right? So there's tracking your time, like with Toggle. So if you get paid hourly, or when you're budgeting your projects, you have to know how long projects take, right? So you want to be able to track your time so you can link your finances or your hourly rate, what you want to be making, to your time. There's also being able to audit your finances. So establishing a budget, establishing a way to track your budget from all of your expenses, from your rent, your supplies, your technology, your software as a service, any consultants you might use, your tax person, software you have to buy, hardware you have to buy, office supplies. You want to be able to make sure that you have a system for managing your finances. And there are lots of different systems for that. I'm going to flip forward just so you can see, but we'll flip back. Like FreshBooks and QuickBooks, I use an application called Xero, which is pretty intense and pretty fully functional. QuickBooks and FreshBooks are okay for most people. If you use a lot of contractors and need to subcontract out, Xero is probably a better bet because FreshBooks and QuickBooks don't do that very well. If you need a CRM program, a customer resource management program, HubSpot is a great place to start because you get a certain level for free. And then there's also aspects of design contracts that link right back to finances. So doing proposals, right? And so LegalZoom is a great resource for legal design contracts and legal contracts. But like I said, the financial stuff, setting a budget, being able to track expenses, developing proposals, creating, pricing your work, how to price your work so you're profitable, how much to charge for what you do. They don't teach you any of that in design school, which really is crazy. Like, they don't give you any structure in terms of how you should be pricing your work or what affects the prices of your work, how you're going to be billing, what are you going to use to invoice people? Are you going to develop something in Illustrator and design and make a PDF and send that out? Or are you going to use a program like FreshBooks or QuickBooks and actually have it digitally sent? How are you managing all that financial stuff? I think one of the biggest things where people fall down, or design schools fall down, and to be honest with you, creative professionals in general fall down, is they don't do a great job of planning their expenses, budgeting, or doing projections. If you're not projecting out your next year or your next quarter and saying, how many clients do I need this month? How many billings, how many projects do I need to make this month? How much are my expenses going to be every month? That's going to come off the top of my revenue. How much taxes am I going to owe on that revenue? If you're not doing any sort of financial projections or planning, you don't have goals or targets that you need to hit. That's another thing they don't teach you in design school at all. And it's one of those things that it's pretty important to sharpen your pencil on and to learn, because that's how you run a business. You have to learn the financial side of it. All right. The next one is how to get a job. This is the one that probably frustrates me more than absolutely anything. Adriana, good to see you. Ted, awesome. Rick is here. Great to see you guys popping in. How to get a job. Like, this drives me crazy. In design school, they teach you about aesthetics. They teach you about art history. They teach you about solving problems. They teach you about how to use applications. But when it comes down to it, they don't really teach you, and they might have a job placement kind of department in the college, but usually they're very lame, right? Answer me. Have you ever used a job placement, group in a university? Tell me how lame they are. And so there's a few things that are really critically important when you're a creative professional looking for a job either in-house or with an agency, and that is interviewing skills. You have to understand how to interview well. I've interviewed I'm not going to say tens, that's an exaggeration, but good 4,000 or 5,000 people in my life. And freelancers, full-time people, people in portfolio reviews. And interviewing for a creative position is an art. And so you have to learn how to pitch yourself, how to promote yourself, how to present your work effectively. How you present your work is sometimes dependent on the type of person or the level of person that you're presenting to. You have to learn essentially sales skills, how to sell your skills to somebody. And as I said, how you present in interviews, whether you're presenting to a senior director or a creative director or a executive creative director or a VP of design. How you present to those people differs. Your work does not speak for itself. A lot of people think that they walk in with their resume and their portfolio and they just lay it on the table and it's like everything's going to take care of itself. They're going to be blown away by my work. They're going to see how talented I am. They know I'm hungry because I'm here in the interview. But they don't know how to tell a story. They don't know how to talk about their work strategically. They don't know how to talk about the projects that they work on. They don't know how to ask questions about the company that they're looking for a job in, how to do research on the company that they want to get a job in, how to ask the right questions about that job, about their clients, about what they work on, about their growth, about the structure of the organization, all these sorts of questions, all this sort of stuff they don't teach you in school. And you really have to know that when you get out, because we all know, right? We all know that the online job application system today is absolutely broken. There are a million job listings out there. You can go on ComArts or, any of the Monster or any of those sites, and you can apply for positions, but there are hundreds of resumes that are coming in for that position, hundreds of portfolios. Generally, they're getting read by bots, by AI. And unless your resume conforms to the AI, to the keywords that they're looking for that position, it's like throwing your resume and your portfolio into a black hole. I know people who have applied for hundreds of jobs and never gotten a response back. How demoralizing is that? You have to really understand what it takes to find a job these days. And 90% of the time, that is through your network. It's through people that you know or introductions that can be made for you. Through press in the flesh and getting introduced or recommended by somebody. So how to get a job and all the things that go into getting a job are one of those things that the design industry kind of, in terms of the organized education system, turns its back on. And I find that really, really frustrating. As I'm saying all this and bitching about, the bones I have to pick with design education, the undercurrent of everything I'm talking about is that if you feel like you are lacking in this area, there are resources for you. Number one, I teach this stuff. I teach this stuff in my paid mastermind groups. I teach this stuff with my coaching clients. I teach this stuff for free through YouTube. I've got over 200 videos on my channel on YouTube teaching stuff all about the things that I'm mentioning. And there are, Skillshare, $15 a month. You can have access to all sorts of continuing education, LinkedIn Learning, same thing. And there's lots of learning platforms. So it's the undercurrent of what I'm saying is that you have to take it upon yourself to recognize what it is that you're missing and to go after it. And to go after it in a really pointed way and find a resource for improving your knowledge level on that thing. Because you have been failed. You have been failed by your education system. Now, here's the other thing. If you're longer in your career, like myself or some other people I know in chat here, it might have been a while since you were in school. The other thing is that a lot of this stuff changes very quickly over time. So even if you were in school and even if you learned some of this stuff, it also changes dramatically. Project management, time management, financial management, client management. The business landscape evolves. And so your approach to it and your knowledge of how to deal with it has to evolve as well. Let's move on to number 4. Oh, I didn't even talk about this part of it. So the other aspect of this is that they don't teach you about the types of jobs that are out there. So there are agency jobs, so working for a design agency or branding or marketing or advertising agency. There are in-house jobs, so working on the client side for a company or a corporation. And the nuances and differences between what it's like to be a creative professional in those different environments. They don't teach you about that. They don't teach you about all of the do's and don'ts and the workings of being a freelancer or how to establish a temp to perm relationship. They don't teach you about staffing agencies. Staff agencies like Aquin or 24/7 Talent or Artisan Talent. These are creative professional staffing agencies, which if you work for them or present to them, they can find you work. They don't tell you about that stuff. They don't teach you that that is a great leg up or a great way to get into the industry. They also don't teach you how to deal with headhunters or what even headhunters are. These are recruiters, independent recruiters, or sometimes recruiters that work for companies. They don't tell you or teach you how to navigate and communicate with a recruiter and who's paying the recruiter. Usually it's the company that is looking for people. So one of the biggest mistakes creatives make is they think that the recruiter's on their side. The recruiter is not on your side. The recruiter is trying to get the best deal for the company that's paying their salary or their commission. And so these are all sorts of things that go into finding a job, which are kind of glossed over in the education industry. Now, another big one is marketing and branding yourself. And this is one that I spend a lot of time on and do a lot of videos on, is how you market yourself, how you position yourself. What does your website look like? What does your portfolio look like? Where are you going to post those things? Social media, what you're going to do on social media, how you communicate your value to clients through your website or through your copy or through your social media posts or content. What the ROI, return on investment, of working with you is to clients, how to communicate that. You have to learn how to sell yourself, whether you're selling yourself internally so you can get promoted in the company or agency that you work for, or whether you're selling yourself externally to clients. There is marketing and promoting and branding within the job environment. Like if you have a full-time job, you also have to think about those things, because eventually you're going to be looking for a new job. You're going to be on the street. So you want to build a brand so when that eventuality happens, you're not caught with your pants down. And the other thing is, a lot of those same skills go into establishing relationships in a company. And I'm going to get to that in a little more detail in a little bit. Seasoned Destiny is watching from Maryland. That's awesome. Lucas, I see your question. Oh, I got to put this up there. Anybody who has a question, please type question in all caps before your question, because if I don't see the word question in all caps, I will very easily miss your question. So please do that. And I'll try to remember, Lucas, your question when I come back to it. So some of the aspects of marketing and branding and promoting yourself are, how are you going to design your products and services? What are you going to offer? If you have an agency or freelance, you're independent, what is it that you offer? What is your skill set? How are you going to package your services? Are you going to sell brand identity system design for a set price? Are you going to quote it for different size companies? Are you going to post those prices and those packages on your website? Also, social media strategies. So how are you going to go about using social media to market and promote yourself? Are you going to do content marketing? Are you going to share your portfolio, your work? Are you going to share case studies? Are you going to curate content around the subject matter that's going to benefit or drive clients to you? Another aspect of marketing yourself that schools don't cover. Competitive research. So who out there is your competition as a creative pro? Who's out there doing what you do? How are they doing it? Where are they showing up? What does their website look like? What does the customer journey or copy say about what they do, their products, their services? What's their tone of voice? Have you done any competitive research on your own creative agency or freelance competition? You should do that. They don't teach you that in school. The website communication. What is the customer journey of your website? I talked a little bit about this a few lives ago, maybe last week, where I was talking about, the 7 mistakes that people make on their websites. And one of them is customer journey copy. Like, are you talking too much about yourself, or are you talking to your customer? Are you speaking in a problem solution kind of way so they can identify with what it is that you offer and see themselves in the solution of what you offer? Content strategy, that's another one. Like, how are you going to be using content to promote and to brand yourself? All of these subjects are key subjects that you want to learn about and have a decent handle on in order to make it in today's professional world. And these are things that the design school system does not really touch on. And as I said, YouTube, my YouTube videos, others' YouTube videos, Skillshare, LinkedIn Learning, there's, seminars, paid courses. There's a lot of different ways to learn this stuff. But you want to, number one, do an audit of yourself. Do an audit of yourself on what you think that you know, what you think that you may be coming up a little bit short on, and try to do a little assessment of yourself. Try to pinpoint 2 or 3 areas where you feel like you might not have a firm handle on things, and then go out and search down some continuing education on that. Number 5 is navigating corporate and agency life. This is one of those things, to a certain extent, it's kind of hard to teach, so this isn't a massive ding on the education system, but I really feel like they should have some sort of communication skills or networking skills or negotiating skills training in design school, because it's so critical when you get into a in-house environment, whether it's an agency or a company, and you have to navigate politics. Because there are corporate politics, there are agency politics, and they will deeply affect how well you fare in those environments in your job. Whether you are promotable, whether you are recognized, whether you are getting the best salary that you can get for yourself, whether you're going to be able to advance in your career. And so, how you work with your manager, how do you communicate to your manager? What do you say to them? How do you get on their best side? How do you position yourself to be promoted? How do you deal with upper management? How do you manage up? We all think about being managed, like what's my creative director saying to me? What's my VP? What's my CMO saying to me? What are they, you have to figure out also how you manage up. How do you manage those relationships up so you can get what it is that you want? You can move where you want in the organization. Those sorts of communication skills are absolutely critical to your success, but they don't touch on it at all in terms of preparing you for that sort of thing. Now, some of these are life lessons, right? But I deeply feel that there are insights. There are tools, there is education that can happen around this sort of stuff that will make people's lives easier. And that's one of the things I do on my channel and in my lives and in the Brand Design Masters Facebook group and in my guild masterminds. That's my mission in life, is to smooth the way for you guys. And so surfacing these things where I feel like the education system has failed you is important to me, because I want you to be able to self-assess and say, Phil's saying that I need kind of to have my handle on this, and I haven't really given that one much thought. I might want to kind of search out some insights on that. Another one, number 6, is how to find clients. What is the number one question I get asked wherever I am, whether I'm speaking at a university, whether I'm doing a live, whether I'm going live in my private Facebook group, whether I'm in my Brand Design Masters Guild mastermind, the people coming into my mastermind. Number one question, how to find clients or how to find more clients. That is one of the major failings, if not the major failing of the design school system and curriculum. How to get clients. How do you determine who your clients should be? Where do you find them? What kind of size company should it be? Entrepreneurs, small to medium-sized businesses, large businesses. How do you sell in your services to that particular client? How do you learn how to speak the language of business so they know that you're not just a mouse-pushing designer person, that you are capable of being a deeper level partner with them? How do you sell yourself? How do you describe what you do in a problem-solving kind of way? How do you communicate the ROI, the return on investment of what you do? How do you describe what the client is going to get if they hire you to do that thing? What's the result going to be for them? How do you engage with clients? How do you network? How do you reach out? This can be things like networking on LinkedIn, making cold connections. It can be doing research on your targets for, figuring out who your customer target is going to be. What sort of industry are they in? What kind of size company are they? Where are they needing your sorts of services the most? How are you going to engage in content marketing in order to attract clients? How are you going to leverage word of mouth through your network connections to get recommended, have clients recommended to you? What's the difference between cold outreach and warm outreach? How do you do cold outreach, completely cold? How do you do warm outreach? What does that look like? What do you say? How do you orchestrate going in and pitching a client where it's not the first time they've heard of you, or they're expecting you to be good because of something that they've heard? How do you do paid advertising, which is completely cold, and promotional marketing of yourself, but it's a way to get clients. It's a way to drive people to you. There's a million different ways that you can get clients, and a lot of different sorts of funnels that you can use, from email funnels to, to live funnels to lead magnet funnels, and to cold networking funnels. And so how to get clients and that process is something they really completely gloss over in design. And I think it's a travesty. I think that it's, they kind of take your tuition money and then they kick you out the door and say, good luck in the real world, when they don't prepare you for all of the nuances of what you need to do to network, to establish relationships, to communicate with potential clients. And then once you get that initial meeting with them, how to land them, how to close them. And finally, how to build partnerships. And this one for me is a big one. And it's one I'm always talking about. And that is networking. New clients come from networking. New partners come from networking. How do you network? What are all the different ways that you can network? How do you build a network? How do you establish a network if you're working in-house at a company or agency? How do you build your network internally? And then how do you extend it outside of the company that you work for? So internal networking in-house, if you're an employee, is just as important as if you're a freelancer or working in an agency, because those internal stakeholders, those internal coworkers, they're not going to stay at that company forever. They're eventually going to leave. They're going to move. They're going to go to a different company. They're going to get an offer. They're going to make more money. They're going to move somewhere else. And by establishing a network relationship with them and friendship with them and staying in contact with them, those are the people who are going to be your referrers. They're going to be the people who get your resume or your portfolio on the desk of the hiring manager, so you're not throwing it into an internet job application black hole. They don't teach you how to do that sort of networking internally in a job that you have. They also don't teach you how to do that networking outside through LinkedIn or through conferences or through seminars or through mastermind groups. You want to make sure that you are building and having and establishing relationships outside of the design department. If you work and are employed by a company or agency, you want to make friends outside of your divisional area. You want to make friends in finance and in strategy and in production and in development and in photography and whatever other departments are on your company. You want to spread that net as wide as possible, because those people are going to move to other places too. And learning how to do that is one of those survival techniques that can bulletproof your career when it comes right down to it. The other thing about this one is partnerships. I think I have a slide after this. I do. And that is, how do you operate as a consultant? How do you operate as an independent? What kind of agency models are there? So if you were working for yourself as a freelancer or starting your own thing, there's more than one type of agency. There's consulting agencies, there's virtual partnerships, there's subcontracting relationship sort of agency models. There are all sorts of different ways of running a creative professional business that have pluses and minuses to them. They don't give you much of an indication of even that aspect of business and running a creative business when you're in school. How do you turn network connections into subcontractors? How do you run a project using subcontractors? How do you pay them? How do you 1099 them? Which is, how do you give them their tax forms at the end of the year? Do you have to pay their health care? Should you actually bring them on as full-time employees? Like all of those things in terms of how you can organize a creative business, poof, they don't handle it in design school. And having that kind of a knowledge is what equips you with being able to tread water in the business environment that there is today. So I think that is it. And with that, I'll take some questions about this topic. If you had any questions about any of the themes that I was going through, or areas where you feel like you have a bit of a shortcoming in terms of what you know or weren't taught in school, I'd love to hear about that. So bang it out in chat. And if you have a question, as it says right here, make sure to type question in all caps before your question. I'm going to stay on for just a few more minutes. I'm trying to keep these lives short because I am going live much more often, and I can't stay on for hours at a time like I used to. I want to make them quick, and I want to do them more often. Okay, I'm going to scroll back. Lucas says, what do you think about the Miami ad school? Heard they prepare you for the market. Yeah, the ad school is better, I would say, and they do. If there is a school that does a better job of it, it's the Miami ad school, one of them, because I think that they are so geared towards the business side of it, and they are really realism focused rather than being a fine art school that has a design department where it's really more of a design or a fine art mindset around design than a business mindset. Like if you go to a liberal arts university and go to a design department in that or a business focused university or a university that has a really strong business school, you're going to get much better preparation for a design degree that's focused around business. Now, there are also some programs that are starting to show up that are design MBAs, which are essentially a business degree, but with a focus in design and design strategy. So that's a real melding of a lot of these realisms of things that I've gone through today that is preparing you for, running a business at a management level in a design capacity. All right, so let's see. Lucas. Oh, I answered that question. Brian said, why haven't you started design school? Brian, I have kind of. I mean, I did right here on YouTube, and I did it for free. And but I also run paid mastermind groups, which is to a certain extent it's a peer learning group. And I'm also developing my own courses. So I just launched Brand Strategy 101, which is a key course to take if you want to make more money in the design profession and swim upstream and become a deeper business partner. So I am developing my own curriculum for those life-based needs that we have as creative professionals that can really return the investment in our career, essentially, who make us money, make us more bulletproof in our careers. So I'm developing my own courses, but I am an individual person, so I don't have a team of 20 people. So the courses will come out, when I'm able to launch them. And then I also do what I do right here. And I'm going to be launching a lower cost paid group community soon, which will be, again, another kind of learning, teaching platform. But in terms of starting an actual brick and mortar school, I wouldn't want to do that. I have actually thought of starting a digital school, like a Skillshare sort of school, but just around design and design business. But I'm running an agency, and so I haven't haven't gone there yet. I'm just going to say yet, because I never say no to everything forever. TJ says, I've done freelance, agency, and in-house, and I found that as a person with anxiety, I prefer in-house. Yeah, I mean, in-house is very much lower key than agency. Agency work is very feast and famine, and the what rolls downhill, and it usually hits the agency, because the one thing people go to agencies for is when they've run out of time and they've run out of options, and all they have left is money. And then they bring in the agency. So it's a fire drill. They pay you a lot of money and you solve their problem. But you're right. Lifestyle-wise, in-house is always can be a lot more sane than the agency side. Mohit says, I'm 17 and going to design school, and I'm confused between choosing industrial design or interface design. I can't help you with that. Those are two very different design disciplines. Interface is navigation and user, UI, UX. Industrial design is physical products, engineering. Two very, very different things. And that comes down to what you're passionate about, really, what you're the most curious about. All right. You're welcome, Lucas. Thank you for the question. Adriana said, I have 23 plus years of experience and well-versed on InDesign, but I feel like I still have lots to learn. Is there an advanced class out there that you would recommend? Ha ha ha. Funny you should ask. byol.me/Philip. Daniel Scott is a certified Adobe instructor. He's spoken as a keynote speaker at the Adobe Max conference. This guy knows his stuff. He's been teaching design applications, Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, a whole host of Adobe applications for years and years. And if you use this link, byol.me/Philip, it's an affiliate link. I get a little, percentage. You don't pay any more. You're just, I'm getting a little bit of money for introducing you to him. And Daniel Scott is the bomb. He's super fun too. He's got a great personality. He's a great teacher. He's got his own, Facebook group. He has his own YouTube channel. You should definitely check him out. And I send everybody that I know who wants to learn more programs, more apps, to him. He's got intro level. He's got medium. He's got advanced levels. He is like the best Adobe teacher there is. So byol.me/Philip if you want to learn new applications. All right, I'm going to take that back off. Yeah, I'll just leave that up there for right now. Okay, Patrick asks, I am 26 and make around $70K as an in-house designer, but I'm worried about being a designer in my 40s and 50s, and yes, you should be. Because you should go back and watch a video I did recently about how much does a designer make in 2020. It was a review of the AIGA's salary census. They do an annual census of what people make in the design industry, what their salaries are. One of the things that was revealed in this, and that I know is true anyway, is that the design and creative industries are very ageist. There's nothing you can do about it, but it's the truth. People age out of the design industry by about the time they're 55. There aren't a lot of in-house working in agencies 55-plus-year-old people. So once you hit 50, and when I left my last thing and started my own agency, I found a thread on LinkedIn of that the question was, it was in a forum, and it said, where have all the 40-year-old creative directors gone? That was the question. And there were 2,000 responses to it. And I read almost every one of them because I was really curious about that, about where do and the advertising industry is the worst. Advertising industry, like if you're 45 and still a creative director in the advertising industry, you're a dinosaur. And so when you look at a bar graph of the number of people who are working in the industry, when it hits about 50, it starts on a downward slide. When you get to 60, there's like no one who's working in the industry anymore. And granted, you can say, yeah, you're going to retire at 60. if you make a lot of money, you will. But a lot of people are working until they're 67, 68, 70, right? But if you're worried about your career, kind of topping out at 40, that's a real concern, which is one of the reasons why I do what I do in trying to prepare people to bulletproof their careers and become more independent and build their own personal brands so they don't find themselves hung out to dry when they hit a certain age. So I'm very, very glad that you said that. It's very smart of you to recognize that. And I would say pay attention to that, because preparing for that eventuality is what's going to be the difference between your continuing to succeed. It doesn't mean you have to give up the industry. You're just going to have to do it in a slightly different way. Okay? Okay, Mohit, continuation of my question. I would like to pursue industrial design, but in my country there are more job opportunities for interface, whereas industrial has fewer greater opportunities in other countries. Yes, Mohit, there is tons and tons of job in UI UX. That's because UI UX is like a catchphrase that everyone is putting in a job listing. Job listings are generally written by human resources departments. They're not written by the hiring managers. And they just hear things like, oh, UX UI, it's really important. Let's put it in the job description. The job description may not need UX UI at all anyway. It's kind of like this catch-all hot phrase that everyone, like it used to be web development. Everyone had to have web development experience or HTML experience or JavaScript, And so we go through phases of kind of certain buzzwords being hot. And so you think that there are more jobs in that. There may not necessarily be. Yes, in industrial design between UX, UI, or anything digital, industrial design is a very specialized skill because it moves more into engineering. But yes, of course, you do want to pay attention to the job market. But I would say the feeling of being an industrial designer over the feeling of what you do when you do interface design are two completely different things. Like if they were even remotely similar, I would say, yeah, it's a hard decision, but it's not. Like if you want to be an industrial designer, you love things, you like making things and designing shapes and stuff you can touch, go there, drive there. If you like figuring out where you put buttons and how someone's going to navigate through an app, then that's a completely different skill set than making 3D models of stuff that's going to be made out of plastic or metal and function and do something, right? Those are two completely different things. So if the whole reason why you're asking me that question is because you want to get a job and not because you're interested in the thing, then go for the one you see more job descriptions of. But those are very, very different kind of pursuits. Okay. All right. You guys aren't writing. I'm trying to read these, but if you have a question, write question in all caps before it, because it looks like you guys are just chatting with each other, which is totally fine. And I welcome that, and I'm very excited that I'm sparking conversation. I should do more rants, right? Should I do more rants? And asking me that question, because I can go off on stuff. You guys know that. Like if you take off the teaching handcuffs and just want to hear what I really think about stuff, we can have that. We can go there. This is kind of one of those ones where it was less structured, and because I'm very passionate about this particular topic and how formal education has failed our industry and how much there is in that gap. There's such a huge gap between what they teach in design school, except maybe the Miami School of Advertising or SCAD, right? And the rest of the fine art and design schools in the country, at least the U.S., where the gap between like what they teach you in design school and what you actually really need to freaking know out in the world is so broad that I'm going to be in work for a long time because I cover that gap. All right. So you guys, this has been great. I'm inching into an hour, and I've been making a goal for myself that I don't want to go live any more than an hour because I have a tendency to just keep going. That's what I do. I just keep going. And it's been awesome talking to you guys. So any of you who have a question, if you have a question, type question in all caps and type the question out quick. I'll stay on a couple more minutes, but if I don't see any more questions come in, I'm going to bolt because I got some client work I got to do. Yep, I do. And I'm also going to be revising my Brand Strategy 101 course. I'm going to take this off here for a second. I'm going to take that off there. And I'm going to put the Facebook URL back up. If you're not in my Facebook group, please join that, Brand Design Masters. That was my one ask. My second ask is, can you please share my channel with someone? If you enjoyed this show, link to my channel and share it with 2 or 3 of your friends. And encourage them to subscribe, because I really like to build my channel and reach more people and help more people, because that's my goal. I want to help people, and you guys can help me help people. So if you know anybody who you think needs to hear this message, hear this video, hear what I teach, please share that. I would really appreciate it. The other thing I'm doing is I'm working on revising my course, Brand Strategy 101, which is going to be launching next month for a second time. And if that's something you're interested in, you should definitely go join the Facebook group, because people in there are going to hear about it first, or my email list. And let me see if I can get my email list URL. I can. Probably. It's in my lower thirds here for a second. Boom. There we go. Sign up for my newsletter, Brand Muse. Go to philipvandusen.com/muse, and you can sign up for my newsletter. It just gets you on my email list, and then you're going to get a free download for one thing. You're going to get a nice little lead magnet that'll be fun to have. Then you're on my email list. You'll get my newsletter. You'll get all my emails when I launch my course, when I launch my mastermind, all of the great content that I put out via email. So do that if you're not on my list. Oh, I didn't scroll. There's all these questions coming in. Okay, sorry. All right. Okay. Darog says, I'm in my mid-30s and just figuring out what I want to do with design. Should I find a pivot already to prepare for aging out? No. Here's the thing. I didn't start designing till I was 30. So I started in the fine arts, and I was teaching and stuff like that. So I didn't even actually start my own t-shirt company until I was 30 years old. I didn't get my first job in design in a company until I was 32. And by the time I was 42, I think, I was a vice president of a major corporation. So in 10 years, you can kill it, right? If you get in there and learn. So no, if you're in your mid-30s, no, you're in the prime. You're in the prime of your life. Start thinking about it seriously when you're about 40, 45, because that's when, you're going to have to keep your antenna up for the writing on the wall of restructurings, getting laid off, things of that nature. So you just want to make sure that you're building a personal brand. You have a presence outside of your job. You have a website, you're doing social media, you develop an audience, and that you're staying current on that stuff. But you do want to just pay attention to the signs, and you'll learn more about the signs as time goes on. What skill sets, software, would you say are necessary for any designer? Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign. I only, basically, in terms of creating stuff, I only use Photoshop and Illustrator. I don't use InDesign for anything. And then also Word or Keynote. Keynote's huge, so some sort of slide presentation software, or PowerPoint. I suggest people learn Excel, a Word application of some sort. So if you're in the Mac world, that's numbers and pages. If you're in the PC world, that's Excel and PowerPoint and Word. But apart from that, and then it's helpful if you know some sort of either audio or video media programs, whether that's Premiere Pro or Final Cut, or whether Adobe Audition for audio or Logic for audio. Having a little bit of video editing, a little bit of audio editing is a very, very good and strong skill to have, and something you can always fall back on. But Photoshop and Illustrator, I think, in terms of creating graphics, are like the two big kahunas. Okay, question. C asks, I worked in a big company for 15 years doing retail and packaging pre-press design. I left to have kids, and now I'm returning to the industry after owning my own business for 6 years. Okay, good. Doing packaging pre-press, you can always get work in that. They always do packaging, FMCG, so fast-moving consumer goods, and it's doing pre-press design for packaging is not like, take this with love. It's not the sexiest design role, so that's a very stable role to be in. The other thing is, I would say, is that's a less ageist area. If you're doing packaging pre-press design, I've had people on my I've run packaging design agencies before, and I've had people on my teams who are older, 60, and who are doing packaging pre-press, and they're not getting aged out. Okay. Deep question. How do I know if I'm suffering from imposter or Dunning-Kruger? I wish there was a mathematical equation, Lucas, for my answering that question. I would really say I have a couple videos on imposter syndrome, so definitely check those out because I think they're pretty good. But if you feel like your productivity or your advancement in your career, you are frozen because of your imposter syndrome, then you might want to pay attention to it and do something about it with a professional. The one thing I would say is everybody has a little bit of imposter syndrome. Absolutely everybody. I have it. Some of the most senior, I coach people who are like senior C-suite executives who have it. And it's not uncommon the higher you go to feel like an imposter. So just know you're in good company. And but if it is really causing you a lot of problems, a lot of it's anchoring you in your advancement, then you want to check that out. Okay. CS, another question. I'm having no luck getting interviews. I've applied to over 100 positions. Have you applied to those online? What did I say? I said applying to positions online is like throwing your resume into a black hole. I bet you probably haven't ever gotten an email back for 100 positions you've applied for. You can't apply for positions online. You have to find a person who is going to get that resume, that PDF, into the hands of the hiring manager. So you have to work on getting network connections at the companies that you want to get into. Yeah, in your mid-40s, in design, ageism is becoming a thing. It is seriously a thing, and it's the unspoken thing of our industry, which is tragic, but it's real. And we can that's the subject for another rant. Actually, that would be a great rant live to do, and Peter Lewis can join me there. I know Peter's laughing right now because I know him. All right. Peter says I get around imposter syndrome by pretending to be someone else. All right, you guys. This has been totally fun. I know I went over an hour by 2 minutes, but it was great. And so I really appreciate you guys coming out and hanging out with me today and hearing about the 7 things that they don't teach you in design school. And maybe the next one's going to be about, actually, I'll tell you what one of my next live is going to be about. My next live is most likely going to be about, I'm reading you the file. I'm going to do a couple of lives about how you do social media, how you develop a social media marketing plan and the sort of business goals that you can achieve with social media marketing. So if you do any kind of social media for your clients or you do any social media marketing for yourself for business development, these are a couple lives that you're going to want to hear because I think that there's a lot of really great content there. It's not so much of a rant. It's really more education. So thank you guys. Phil C. Adventures, Blue Mini, Peter, Lucas, Kelly, Mohit C. Great questions. Patrick, Lucas, that was a great question. Adriana, it's so great to see all you guys. And keep your eyes out because I'm going live like almost every day these days because I'm just on a roll. And I'm just like, I've been off YouTube for so long because I was launching my course for almost 5 months. I didn't post a video every week. And now I'm posting a video every week. And I'm also going live on top of that, like 3 or 4 times a week. So join my email list. I'm going to put that up here one more time. philipvandusen.com/muse, so you can hear about when I go live, when I launch a course, when I launch my mastermind, when I launch my community. You will be there. And if you can, please share my channel. I would really appreciate that. You guys have been amazing, and I will see you on the flip side. So be well, be healthy, take care of the people that you love, continue to learn, keep moving yourself forward. You are enough. I'm saying that to Lucas. You're enough, man. Do not feel like you are an imposter, because you know stuff. You have value to give other people. The one thing I would say, if you feel like an imposter, concentrate not on yourself. Concentrate on how you can help others. Find someone who's 5 steps behind you and help them. That's what makes me feel fantastic. And when I'm feeling like an imposter, I do a video. Doing a video can make you really feel like an imposter, but I put myself out there to help others, and that takes the focus off of me, because imposter syndrome is to a certain extent self-centered. It's self-centered perfectionism. And if you focus on other people and giving value to other people, that dynamic totally shifts. So, final words. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I will see you very soon, so keep your eyes out for the next live. And I hope you enjoyed this thing on 7 things they don't teach you in design school. You guys have been awesome, and I'll see you later.